everyone, it's Logan and I am back with a video. I know it's been a super long time. Today I wanted to show you a traditional dip powder application with dip liquids. I'm going to be using this color Lovely, which is a new formula to an old color. The new formula has a bit of shimmer. It is very, very slightly different. You can check out the comparison pictures on our Facebook group. I did post some. And then this is a thermal powder in glitter. It is a limited edition color, and it turns from like a warm pink to a cool, darker purple when cold. I have already prepped my nails. I don't have a video on prep yet, but I'm sure there are some videos on YouTube. Just look up prep for dip powder. I will try to get one of those up sometime in the future. I won't make any promises to you guys. Okay, so first off, I am going in with the glue. You'll see that I start toward the edge of the nail first and then fan down towards the cuticle area. This is going to give me more control of my liquids. One of the biggest mistakes when you start dipping is flooding the cuticle area and applying too much of the glue or base dip liquid. If you have control of the liquid, the whole process is just going to be a lot easier for you. I would say less is more when starting out. You can always go in and add another layer, but once you flood the cuticle, it's kind of hard to go back from that. I'm also using a precision tool to clean up around the cuticle area. That is what you see me go in with after dipping. Again here, you see I apply the glue toward the end of the nail first and then go in and really perfect the cuticle line. Dip into the powder. I like to lay my finger in flat. I just feel like it gives me a lot smoother of a finish and it cuts down on buffing. A lot of times if I dip in at a 45-degree angle, I end up with the powder bunching up and causing a ridge. So I just have pretty much converted to the laying in flat. We also have silicone dipping cups, which make this really easy. They're a rectangle shape, and it's very easy to just lay your finger into the powder that way. A lot of people prefer this for glitter application. Now I'm just going back in with my glue for a second coat of dip powder. I am only working with these two nails because I will be using the thermal glitter on the other three. When I'm using a solid and a glitter, I will always go in with my solids first. And then you'll see I will activate them as well to harden it so I prevent any glitter pieces from sticking to these nails. You can see here if the powder still looks a little wet after you have dipped into the powder, you can go right back in and just dip again. This is mainly just from you applying maybe a little bit too much glue and the powder was not enough to completely absorb into it. Now I am closing up my solid so I do not contaminate it with glitter. And I'm taking the Activate and applying a generous amount. I usually dip into the bottle about 2 times for each nail. If you were just going to go in with a one color mani, you would just do the same application to all 5 nails and then go in and activate. Since I'm using the glitter, like I said, I like to activate these to protect them from getting contaminated with glitter pieces. Now I'm going in with the thermal glitter. This is a little different consistency than like a typical glitter would be. Normally I would do 2 dips of a glitter, but with this one I felt like the coverage was really good. I think it's just because it has a powder base as well. And so I decided just to do 1 dip of this, and then later in the video you'll see I encapsulate with crystal glass clear. When applying a glitter, you go right around the cuticle just as you would with a solid, and then you can take your finger and you will tap down on the top part of the nail just to smooth any little crazy pieces out. You don't want anything sticking up. So you just pat them down as smooth as you can. And then I also like to go in and pinch the tip of the nail just to clean up that area as well. The smoother you can get it, the less buffing and filing you will have to do later on. And I will just repeat this on the other 2 nails. If you were working with a chunkier glitter, this is also the time that you would go in and you can move any of those big pieces around on the nail. You could knock a few pieces off if there were too many and it looked crazy. And then again, you would just go in like I am here and pat them all down smooth. You can go around the tip and make sure there's no big pieces sticking out towards the edge, and really just clean it up as much as possible while the liquid is still a little damp. These liquids, I would say, are user-friendly. I tested liquids for almost a year before I finally decided on these. Selling point to me was thin base that's easy to control. It's also medium dry time for things like working with glitter ombres or just ombres in general. It gives you a little bit more time to work with the powder. And then they were hard to contaminate, and the top coat is very shiny. So if those are things you're looking for, I do recommend these. Now I'm just going to go in and I will dust off any excess glitter on the nail before going in with the crystal glass clear to encapsulate. You could also encapsulate the solid colors if you would like to. I would do that before you activate if so, but that's just going to prevent any splotchiness. Sometimes with paler colors or like bright vivid colors, you can buff too much and it will cause little patches in the nail that look like white or just off colored. So just to be safe, if you want to be extra careful, I would recommend a clear encapsulation on all nails. Better safe than sorry. When I go in with the glue for clear encapsulation, I do like to make the coat a little bit thicker than I normally would, just so I'm sure to get a nice coverage of clear to protect the nail. The clear is just to protect from when you're buffing that you don't burn any of the glitters. You can over buff and it will basically just take off the color and turn them silver. So that would be, one of the main points of this glitter encapsulation. It is also going to fill in just any of the little gaps to make the nail super smooth and level everything out. you wanted to be extra careful, you can go in and do a second coat of clear dip powder. I only did one here, but like I said, you can never be too careful, especially if you are someone who is new to this. It will just give you more of something to work with when you're buffing. More room, as you would say. Another tip when working with clear dip powder is to always use a stiff nail brush once you are done with your application before you activate. As much as the clear as you can get off, the better. This will prevent it from looking cloudy, which no one likes. This is how it will look after your clear encapsulation. Here I'm going in, like I said, with a stiff nail brush and just really going over the nails to make sure all the excess powder is wiped off. Here's where if you wanted to go in with a second coat of crystal glass, you could. I am not going to, so I am going in with my Activate again. Applying a generous amount of Activate. Like I said earlier, I usually dip into the bottle twice on each nail. Make sure the nail is fully covered. After you've applied the activator to all of the nails, you're going to let that dry for just a minute, and then you will go in and do your buffing and filing to shape everything up. I'm not going to show you the full buffing and filing, but I will add a little clip of 1 or 2 fingers here so you can see that process. So when I do my filing and buffing, I like to go in and clean up my shape first. You will notice that the shape you started with does grow a little bit with a dip powder application. The powder just makes it a little wider and the lines aren't quite as sharp. So that's what I like to do first. I go in and just really clean up my shape and get it back to how I prefer it. You'll see I kind of use like a rounded motion. After I've cleaned up the tip of my shape, I like to go in really gently right around the cuticle line. I'm not really digging into that powder. I just want to get right in between where my dip powder application was and my cuticle line is, just to really smooth out that line and give you a clean cuticle area. Then I'm going to go in with my buffing block, focusing around the cuticle area first. I like to get this area really nice and smooth. Again, that is going to help prevent lifting. I didn't need to do much buffing to this manicure because everything was pretty nice and flat already. But that is just a little bit to show you this process for me. So after I'm done buffing and filing, I will just go in with a fluffy nail brush and wipe all the excess dust off of the nail. Then I'm going in with my second coat of Activate. This coat of Activate is important as it helps your gloss to dry properly. So again, I'm using a pretty generous coat of Activate to all 5 nails. So I'm going to let these dry for about 2 minutes, and then I will be right back. Once your activator has dried, you will go in with a lint-free cloth and alcohol to wipe any remaining activate off of the nail before going in with your gloss. This is super, super important, especially if you are new to dipping. As I said before, the activate is what helps the gloss harden and dry. So if there is any activate left on the nail and you go in with your gloss brush and it touches the brush, it is going to harden instantly. And then you are going to be very frustrated that you cannot finish this manicure that you have worked so hard on. So highly, highly recommend wiping this off before going in with the gloss. If you do not have alcohol, just go in with a dry paper towel. Anything is better than nothing, just to be safe. When you're going in with the gloss, you will do a quick 3-stroke. You don't want to go over it too many times, especially on this first application. I also wipe my brush on the lint-free cloth in between each nail. This is just further going to prevent contamination of the brush. Make sure everything is going smoothly. Now, right after you apply it to all 5 nails, I would recommend doing one hand at a time. You can see that it looks tacky. That means you're ready to go right back in and do your second coat of gloss. You don't want to wait too long, but you do want to see how it looks a little bit tacky. That is your telltale sign that it is ready to move on. You can be a little more detailed with this coat. I typically do pretty much the same, just like a 3-stroke method. You don't want too much product on your brush. Again, being careful not to flood the cuticle, because if it gets around the skin or too much product near the cuticle, this can also cause lifting. You can kind of take a little bit more time to make sure this coat is going on nice and even and not too thick around the cuticle area. Now this will take about 3 minutes to dry, maybe a little less than that, but just to be safe, I would recommend waiting 3 minutes. I'm absolutely in love with these colors together. I think this is one of my favorite manicures that I've done to date. You can kind of see here how the tips are turning a little darker purple, that thermal change. And this was only one dip with it, so might be a little hard to tell on camera. Now I'm going in with my cuticle oil. This is by Scales of a Mermaid, and I am absolutely obsessed with all of her products right now. The oils and the cuticle balms are my go-to, and there has been not one scent that I have not absolutely been obsessed with. So if you have not tried Scales of a Mermaid, I highly recommend. Now Now I'm just going to go in and rub it right around my cuticle area and even up under the nail. Make sure everything is nice and nourished after we have kind of given these little guys a beating. And that is it. That is going to be your basic dip powder application with dip liquids. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you like this look. And hopefully here in the near future, maybe I can get another video up for you guys. I forgot that I did this here. This is my attempt of showing you the thermal change with my barely any iced coffee. As you can see here, the darker tips are starting to turn. This is just such a pretty thermal. It's subtle, but it's enough that it, is interesting to look at. And both shades are beautiful. I'll attach some photos of the final look. And again, thank you to everyone who has watched this video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.